3 days before the ballet. I had a ticket and absolutely nothing to wear. No plan, no pattern, and probably not even enough fabric. I could have just bought a dress, but instead I tried to make one, and this is how it went. So this is what I imagine. It had to be one of those elegant kind of scarf designs. I wanted it to be asymmetrical. So I just quickly sketched something up. This is the first original design. It was supposed to have like a nice long flowing skirt and also some pleating details. Moving on to the pattern, I actually did not have enough time to make a pattern from scratch, so I had to improvise. I like to just copy pieces that I already own and I know that fit me well and kind of have the same shape that I want to make anyways. You just lay them out flat, you add some seam allowances later on. Just remember, if you have something that is out of a stretchy fabric, don't attempt to make it out of a non-stretchy woven fabric because that's just not gonna work, and try to kind of match the drape and the weight of the fabric to the thing that you want to make. Well, this method is not perfect, of course, but it works, and that's the most important thing when you're short on time, right? So I imagined this really nice flowy bias cut design, but laying it out on the fabric I realized nope, I just don't have nearly enough. This is not going to work at all. So I had to improvise and make some uncomfortable compromises. For example, the slip skirt is not going to be on a bias, and that's that. If you're ever in this situation, it can be very, very tempting to just twist things around until they fit the fabric that you have without any regard for the grain line. If you go completely off grain, there will be consequences. You might end up with something absolutely unwearable after one wash. So I suggest you stay in the confines of the grain line and you can still make it fit. Or it's just not meant to be and you have to make the same project maybe out of a different fabric. Or I don't know, buy more fabric next time. I mean, that's good advice for myself, so. I was saved by the fact that the fabric looks the same from the left and the right side, so they're pretty much identical. And the fact that it doesn't have any direction. This meant that with my fabric, I was able to kind of make most of the layout because, yeah, I could just twist and turn the pieces, of course, being aware of the grain line, and yeah, I managed in the end to fit everything and cut it out. That was a great way to end the day. So I had planned to spend the whole afternoon and evening finishing the dress. However, apparently there's a full-on event happening outside of the atelier, so that's great timing, right? I think they're up to something. Maybe I'll wait till this line is not so long and check out what's going on over there. But anyways, I have a dress to finish, so I just went right back into it. Before the sewing process can even begin, there's still a few crucial things that need to be done first. So I had to mark out all of the bust darts especially. Also, I still needed to cut the scarf part, which I luckily accounted for in my pattern layout. And there's a little trick I like to use to make sure that everything is like nice and straight on the grain, which is pulling the thread. So basically you cut a little bit into the fabric, you pull the thread out as much as it allows itself to be pulled, and then there's a little line created and you just cut there. And then you continue pulling and cutting, pulling and cutting. Another thing that I had to do, which was actually not accounted for in a pattern layout, but I knew I could make it work, is the bias tape that I had to cut out of the scrap fabric. Like take the biggest pieces that I could find and just put them on the bias, and then I just pulled them through my trusty little bias tape maker. The forming huge crowd outside did not have any effect on my concentration whatsoever. And then, after picking the perfect shade of green, I was finally ready to start the sewing process. Yay! This is basically just preparation too, but it's quite important, I would say, is putting a stay stitch around the neckline and the armholes because they can stretch out when you handle the fabric during the process of sewing. So I'd like to sit down and assemble the whole thing in my head. I guess this process is called planning. And then just put this planning steps down on a piece of paper. Sometimes the right order of things is really important. Alright, so first order of business as per the piece of paper is hemming the volants. So for the seams, I actually used a French seam. It's a little bit of a more advanced technique, but I think for this kind of fabric and this kind of project, it's really nice because the fabric is pretty thin. The French seam doesn't end up too bulky. And what I also really like about the French seam is it gives the inside of the garment a nice, clean looking finish and a seam allowance that survives wash after wash after wash. So somewhere between finishing the seams and starting the bottom part, I looked outside and realized the lines have actually cleared, so I needed a break anyways. So I headed out to the event. It was like a secondhand and local designers market. I also saw a lot of beautiful gowns and would have been so easy to just buy one of them right then and there and just would have had my gown for the ballet and just ended the struggle right then and there. But once the fabric is cut, there is no turning back. So I took on the challenge. It was already quite late, but I was determined and I went back because I had a dress to finish. So the night of the ballet came, I put on the dress, my dress, and walked into the opera. The piece was Per Gynt, and to be honest, I had no idea what to expect, but it was profoundly touching, especially the last act, where the hero, to pursue his dreams and to become rich and famous and whatever, but in the end he returns. But things are not the same anymore. He is old and she is blind, and they dance like they used to, and it's that dance is so beautiful and so profoundly sad because they can never have what they could have had. It's just too late for them. And it makes me tear up just thinking about it. But when I was sitting there in the darkness, I actually cried. And it was a bit embarrassing, but I just couldn't stop it. So I left the opera in a completely crumpled dress and a bit of a smudged makeup. But I was elated because editing Anna here. I don't know exactly what tangent I was going on, but I think I was trying to just explain the effect of art. All I want to say is you can go to 10, 50, 100 ballets, etc., and they don't touch you, and then you go to one and it really does, and yeah, that's what happened to me there. It touched me deeply, but I cannot put it into words. I don't know about you, but I don't really go to the ballet or the opera that often. So making a dreamy gown I would only wear once might not be the smartest idea. I turned it into a two-piece set, a draped top with a scarf detail and a nice slip skirt. Kinda wanted to make sure I create something that is wearable in my actual real life and not just a dream version of me who goes to the opera all the time. This kind of set can be styled in myriad of different ways. Options, people. I would strongly encourage you to also think about your sewing projects in a similar way. Like, how is this thing I'm about to make and pour a lot of effort and energy, resources, and time into? How does it fit into my life, and how can I maybe combine it with the other pieces that I have? So sometimes all it takes is a bit of fabric and a reason to say yes. Say yes to the occasion, even if you don't have anything to wear yet. Also say yes to yourself and to your inner creative voice. So if this resonates, it would be great to see you around. Yeah, let's make some beautiful things together. And if you enjoyed this type of project, I guess I could also release the pattern. So if you're interested in that and would like to make something similar, please let me know. On to the next project, and I see you in the next video. Bye bye.